Maritime Matters is brought to you live by Bahamas Maritime Connection.
What is maritime?
Maritime, simply put, relates to navigation or commerce on the high seas.
Some say money makes the world go round. I say ships move the money that make the world move.
Who navigates those large international ships?
How often are international ships required to be surveyed and inspected?
Maritime also protects our seas and borders by way of our local Bahamas Defense
It
Force.
is very sad to say that out of 1,500 plus ships that are registered under the Bahamian flag, only a very small amount of Bahamians are employed.
Maritime Matters.
And pleasant good evening to you, our valued listening audience. Welcome one, welcome all, welcome to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Payne, and let me just tell you, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. This is 2025. We got a whole year to put things right. And you know what? We're going to do just that. We're coming to you live via Love 97 FM. This is Tuesday, the 7th day of January, 2025. And if it's a Tuesday, it's Maritime Matters. And this is the first Tuesday of the year. That being the case, we're going to look back at last year and see what all we talk about, especially the high-tech stuff that we really need to get right. We're going to cover those things. But before that, we encourage that if you're driving and tuned in with us tonight, do so cautiously and ensure to take your time in getting wherever it is you are trying to get safely. As the saying goes, drive to arrive alive. We apologize for the delay in little technical difficulty that we had to get over. But now we're here. We're live. We're ready to go. Our sponsors for tonight's show are 101 Pharmacy and also Island Care Pharmacy. For all your medication needs, check out my little cousin Shantae McBride and a lovely team at 101 Pharmacy in Nassau and Island Care Pharmacy in Freeport. Fill your prescription in the store or send your refills via the online site. onepharmacy.com. That's 101pharmacy.com. All one word, all lowercase, 101 Pharmacy, and then .com. The three locations, East Street South. And when you go on East Street South, tell Joy, my good pharmacist, Joy, tell Joy hello for me. Second one is located on Charles Sanders Highway. And when you go in there, tell Silla, anybody you see, man, tell them Captain Bean from Maritime Matters say hello. Boy, someone tell me he go on in 101 Pharmacy and he say, oh, Captain Bean, Sam just let y'all know he sent me. They say, who? I was so ashamed. Man, I gotta show my face. I really gotta get to know my people. I talk with you all the time and then you all even know who the people talk. Okay, I can fix that. We can fix that in 2025. And then, of course, Explorers Way and downtown Freeport. That's where my big cousin Steph just hang out. My cousin from way back in the day. Boy, look here. Steph, you older than me. Yeah, Steph a little older than me. So I know her from long time. So when you see her, give her a kiss and tell her, Captain Ben sent that. We are secondly sponsored by Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited. At BMC, we provide a full slate of ISPS maritime security services. Good night, Annie Mae. First good night I given my Annie Mae in 2025. That's our number one fan, right up there in Freeport. I say good evening to you, honey. That's my Annie Mae, boy. She's 91 years old and gonna be 92 shortly. And then I tell Annie Mae, I say, Annie Mae, well, when you pass 100, we can start talking about how you're feeling. Because right now, you on your way to 100. We ain't looking back, we ain't hitting our head. That's how we roll it. So again, good night to my Annie Mae. You're listening to Maritime Matters. And on this show, we talk maritime. Maritime Matters airs weekly at 17:05. That's 5:05 p.m. every Tuesday here on Love 97 FM. The purpose of our show is to highlight persons that made significant contributions to maritime in the Bahamas and to sensitize Bahamians of opportunities in the maritime sector. We also cover current maritime issues from the domestic and international maritime fields. The phone number to call us, should you wish to get in on the discussion during the show, is 326-8255. Again, the number to reach us, 326-8255. To hear a replay of this show or any of our previous shows, and we got up to 2.5 years worth of show. Well, almost 3 years. Come February now, it'll be 3 years, eh? So we got almost 3 years of shows that you can just go to YouTube, pull up our YouTube page. That's Maritime Matters Bahamas. 3 words, Maritime Matters Bahamas. So just go to YouTube on your electronic device and type into the search box Maritime Matters Bahamas. Those 3 words, like I love you, yeah. Maritime Matters Bahamas. That's how we rolling. So let's talk maritime. Hello. Boy, look here. Tonight, we want to recap on our year 2024 major topics. Topics we aim to engage tonight, therefore, are as follows. And let me tell you, we loaded, we see tonight. Provision of Family Island cruise ship facilitations. We preach and preach and preach. We need ports in the Family Islands that the government put there. These cruise ships got more ports than us. Why? We need to fix that in 2025. Next big topic, immigration. It's the biggest one, eh? Well, maybe a little bigger than the one with the cruise ports. We need those cruise ship ports first. Immigration is a problem. We have in our country a lot of illegal employment. We need to enforce our immigration laws to the extent that people feel terrified to try come here and work. And I ain't talking about the workers, The people who employ them need to feel terrified. Because why? Because our Immigration Act, so anybody who employs somebody to work and that person is not a Bahamian and they do not have the requisite work permit. And I say requisite work permit. You know what that means? That means, don't tell me you get a work permit to be a laborer or a farmer and you're doing construction. Because that ain't requisite. Okay. So that's where we get with immigration. Shanty towns. That's another immigration issue. The trend to alleviate these shanty towns started last year. Superman, Minister Clay Sweeting, Minister of Works, he took down, I remember 2 in Nassau. I think he was going for 3rd one. I know what happened there. He took down the big dog in Abaco, and he was supposed to take down the next 2 big dogs. Did that happen? Well, those are things we can address tonight. If you know, please call in and let me know, because I really don't know at this point. Boy, but we need to find out. And like I always said last year, we need a schedule. Superman and your crew, which include my boy Cardwell Pratt, I need y'all to show us, we the people, us the public, a schedule of which shanty town you're going to go when. And then you only got to do 1 a month for us, That means 12 going in the end of the year. Do 1 a month. Let us see it so we can follow it. Don't try to flam us. Now, election next year. No foolishness out of y'all. Let us see that schedule now for the rest of 2025. And you all know where all the shanty towns are. And we all know that. We know that you all know where all the shanty towns are. So, let's get with it. The Royal Bahamas Defense Force. They are now tasked with sending 150 troops. I won't call them Marines, but they send a boat, cruise. Well, actually, I think the boat break down. Based on what I heard on the news, I think it was yesterday or today, the boat break down. 198 footer. One of them anyway. Supposed to go and do a deployment off the coast of Haiti. My understanding is they have little issues. Now we all know, that the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, what my mom used to say, ain't white pump when it comes to engineering. No, they shall be. And I could tell you that from time I was to be shabby. Boy, and we had one. Anyway, let me don't talk, but these people who cause it to be shabby as it is today, people who call themselves engineering managers and engineers, and they again, they ain't no pump, right? So, our defense force needs to reassess itself when it comes to providing engineering maintenance to the machinery on board those ships. Reassess itself because it lost. You ain't get, let me tell you something. You got tropical shipping, Betty K, what the next one name? Anyway, all these mail boats, Bahamas ferry ships. Hey, these boats going every day. Yes, they just have problems when they break down here and there, but you ain't gonna never know they out of service for months and they ain't moving. And you know part of the reason, the biggest part of the reason, is that they have certified engineers, particularly officers, engineering officers on board those ships. And what I mean by certified, they STCW certified. They had to meet certain standards in the classroom. They had to meet certain standards on board ships. They had to meet certain standards in workshops. And you name it. You think our defense forces do any of that? As a matter of fact, we don't even have officers in our engine room. Our engine rooms are run by ratings. And that's how serious we are about ensuring that, you can imagine, you have a ship that's 15 years old. And you call it old? You know, there's 15 years in commercial. They have these ships for 40 and 50 years. And they don't break down. And when they break down, they're down long. Because they're maintaining them properly. If we maintain our ships like the U.S. Coast Guard, I remember the Coast Guard gave us a couple of 30-year-old ships. And we got a good 10 years out of them. They were already 30 years old. So our Coast Guard could have ships running well up to 30 years. And before we get 15 years, our ship's finished. Excuse me. That one got me cough. We need to do better in our Royal Bahamas Defense Force. When it comes to engineering, let's send some people off to be engineering officers. Let's start now. And like I said to Superman, Minister Clay Sweeting, let's have a schedule as to how many we can send over the next 5 years. And we should be sending at least 3 or 4 a year. They got to go to Dartmouth like all the other officers, and then they got to go to engineering establishment in the UK or in the US or wherever. Or they go to the U.S. Coast Guard Academy in Connecticut, where they do a 4-year engineering program to become engineering officers. But we need to get serious. You know how much money we spend for these ships? You know how much money it costs when your ship broke down for reasons that could have been avoided? We need to get that right. Anyway, I digress, as my friend Nahaja Black used to say. Let's get back. Global warming, next big topic. And that is the current topic. That's we just had COP29 last year. Before that, we had COP28, COP26, and in 2015, was it, or 2016? A couple of years back, about 10 years, 8 to 10 years ago, they had the Paris Agreement from those same COP, I think it was COP 16 or one of them. And countries pledge to do certain things to ensure that the world will not continue to be getting hotter and hotter as time move on. And we know it's a fossil fuel with costing it. So countries have made, and our country made pledge that by 2030, all government buildings will be solarized. By 2030, all government vehicles will be EVs, or electronic vehicles. And that's a big pledge, eh? And that was made by our current Prime Minister. And if for some reason next year come around and our current Prime Minister is voted out, well, the new Prime Minister continue that trend, uphold that, and put things in place to ensure that happens. And if our Prime Minister continues to be our Prime Minister, Is he going to make strategic efforts based on a plan to ensure that no more red plates are going to be fossil fuel, or what they call them? They call them ICE, internal combustion engines. Is that going to happen? And if it's going to happen, we only get this 2025, we'll get 5 years. And we also said that I think we're going to bring the country's electricity down to like 75% of the fossil fuel it used in the day. And I think we're on that trend, right? But we want to do better than that. We really should be doing better than that. We got all the sunshine. We need to use solar. Now, look like the country is going. Not want to go now. Based on what I've seen so far, and I've heard and I've read, country is going natural gas. Liquefied natural gas, or LNG. Now, LNG will reduce it by about some 40%, because LNG is a lot less than the regular bunkersy and fossil fuel and all the rest of that, diesel and all the rest of that stuff, right? But LNG could be, we could alleviate it all together for your solar. And how we get your solar? We're going to solarize each home. Well, I don't know if we're going to. We should. The government should be giving incentives and encouragement for every household owner to put some solar panels on their roof. Some. And in some cases, get off the grid if you could. Or tie to the grid and feed the grid. Excuse me again. That's what our government, if they are serious about global warming, if they are serious about Bahamians saving money, and not most of the money going to special interest groups, then the government will put incentives in place. The government will put encouragement in place for you and me and every other Bahamian to put a couple solar panels on their roof, get some inverters in their house, and take off at least 50% of the energy we use right now. And in addition to that, the government will put in place some solar farms in strategic areas in Nassau, so that we can wean this country away from fossil fuel altogether. We got to do it anyhow by 2040. Well, they say 2050 now. But if we got to do it anyhow, and we got all the sun, we got more sun, man, you see how hot it was yesterday? I think the sun burned today like yesterday. And I understand this weekend can be cold. Boy, let me tell you something. If you got any jacket, go and find it now. Come this weekend, you can need like 2 jackets a time. You could be like you up in Dakota somewhere. Anyway, that's what the forecast say. We'll have to wait and see. Some must like it cold, some must like it hot, some us don't like it either way. If it's too hot, we complain. If it's cold, we complain. We just want it to be like it was last night all the time. Man, we ain't no place in the world got that luxury, eh? But we got it better than most. So, renewable energy in the Bahamas. That's where we need to focus. We're going to solarize this country. Now the government said they'll go 80% solarization of Exuma. So if you can do 80% solarization in Exuma, what's stopping you from doing 80% solarization in New Providence? If you allow the households to tie into the grid, that means you don't have to buy no bunch of panels. You don't have to have no bunch of solar farms. Wouldn't be necessary. Just give us some incentive and give us some encouragement, and we'll be happy to do it. Let us know that our light bill could come down $100 and something a month no matter where you live. And that's what that'll do. So let's get with it. 2025 is the year for us to be watching, the year for us to be ensuring, making sure that our government doing something. How we can make sure? I don't know how we can make sure. We don't like to protest. But we need to keep the pressure on. So, a Nassau Cruise Port said that they can supply the cruise ship, I think some 60 megawatts, is it? Or 70 megawatts of power using LNG. Well, they say they want to use LNG. I really don't think they do. I think they really want to put some tank farm in place and provide this with solar. And I'll tell you why. Because Nassau cruise port officials, like myself, understands and realizes that cruise ships are all now being converted to LNG. In the process of, or in the interim of moving into just batteries, either hydrogen, and when they come into port, they almost have to plug in because they don't want to be emitting no carbon emissions from no machinery. As a matter of fact, most cruise ships, if not all, will have installed on board a carbon capture system, which when the exhaust goes up and it attracts the carbon or captures the carbon and stores that carbon after slight conversion on board in a cargo hold or in a hole, a void space. And later, that cargo will be taken out by vacuum truck or whatever, further processed, and stored hundreds of feet under the earth where carbon come from. That's where it come from. Oil come from hundreds of feet under the earth. Coal come from hundreds of feet. You know the coal mines, they go deep down into the earth. Because that's where the earth, Mother Earth, Gaia, stores carbon. And it puts it there because it don't want that disturbance of the balance of the environment. Too much carbon in the environment right now is causing us to have global warming. It's causing us to be... November was the hottest month ever recorded from recordings were being done in history. Just last year, November, just 2 months ago. And you think that can be it? No, this year we got a couple more hotter than November based on projections. So we need to bend that curve to come back down to less hot days. That's what we need to do. So, how we can do that? Well, we just gotta use solar where there's a lot of sunshine. Use wind farms, those windmills and things. They don't burn any carbon. Use wind farms in areas where it's not so hot. For vessels, they could use, and you know the earth right now, 10% of the energy in the entire world comes from, what that thing named, nuclear. And they are now making nuclear friendly for commercial use. And guess what? Nuclear don't give off no carbon. So by the end of this 2040, over the next 25 years, I will not be surprised if 20 or 30% of the Earth's energy comes from nuclear. Then we get hydrogen. Water itself gives off no carbon. So there are a lot of alternative energy sources out there. And every day as we speak, they are being honed to get better and better so that the world will wean itself away from fossil fuel and we ain't got to worry about a carbon problem no more. It take care of itself. So we can go into some further details of how we're going to approach renewable energy in the Bahamas over the next couple of years, eh? One of our next big topics, now the time coming up again, the HMBS Flamingo incident. We know that the Cuban makes basically bombed and sank our 2-year-old ship at the time, Flamingo. The fastest ship in the fleet. It was only Flamingo and Marlin that were really could do up to 26 knots when you put them on the sprint, right? The other vessels, the 60-footers that came around the same time, you could get 21. If you get 22 knots of them, that's plenty. But the Marlin and the Flamingo were the two largest, 103 foot. As a matter of fact, the Marlin was the flagship of the fleet, and Flamingo was the sister. Well, only one could have been the flagship, so obviously they chose one of the two. And when the Cuban send those rockets, those missiles, and they sank that ship, there was 19 men on board at the time. We know the men had to hit the water and swim for their lives. We know that some of them got killed while they were in the water. We know that Captain Amos Roll was the last person to leave the ship, and he almost didn't want to leave. But of course he had to. Ship was going down. And that HMBS Flamingo incident happened in 1980, 1 year before I even joined the Defense Force. And I don't see any roundabouts carrying the name of any one of those men. I don't see any streets carrying the name of any one of those men. I don't see any buildings carrying the name of any one of those men in public. Now they have, on the base itself, thanks to my good friend, former Commodore Clifford Butch Scavella, and of course those that followed, they have a big memorial structure where not only the 4 men that died in the Flamingo incident, but all Defense Force personnel that died while in service are commemorated, remembered based on that structure. But we need, you see, not only the Defense Force felt this travesty, the entire country, and I dare say the entire Caribbean, the entire Western Hemisphere, probably even the entire world, would have heard about a warplane taking advantage of a patrol boat and killing a few men. And I can tell you that nowhere in the history of our country that we ever had a military attack on anywhere in this country during peacetime or even during wartime. So we peacetime, these fellas doing their jobs. They're patrolling the waters, make an arrest, 2 arrests, and they were attacked when they could not defend themselves. Because you got to remember now, this is a patrol boat. This is a patrol boat that is designed to overpower drug smugglers, poachers, and illegal immigrants and do search and rescue. That's what this patrol boat is designed for. This ain't designed for no surface-to-air missile or warfare. This ain't designed for no surface-to-subsurface warfare or surface-to-surface warfare. If Cuba sent a frigate or a destroyer, well, I don't think they had no destroyer. But let's say they send a frigate with one missile. They can take us on the water. We ain't got no missiles. The largest weapon we had on those ships was 20 millimeters. It's like a cannon, but come on, man, it can't blow up nothing. And by time, and I'm not talking about an automated 20 millimeter gun. I'm talking about a manual 20 millimeter gun, which turns very slow, because I used to shoot them. They turn very slow when you get in that cradle, because they're heavy enough so you can't just swing them around how you swing around a regular gun. So by the time you look, well, first of all, you don't see them MiGs until they done pass you. Yeah, remember they the Russian-made MiG fighter jets. But anyway, we ain't getting into too much details with the Flamingos. What we need to remember is those men need their need their reparations. They need their family to be paid for what they went through. And what they went through, nobody else in this country. 19 of them, 4 died on impact. So 15 left, 4 died since then, 11 left. Nobody else in this country other than 11 people living today experienced what they went through as they were taken advantage of. So we need to take care of those men. We treated them horribly. They need to be taken care of. And I ain't gonna let that drop. So y'all can say whatever y'all want to say, but me, oh, you keep pushing this filmmaking. Yes, I can keep pushing it. Because the government knows that they need to give these men reparation. The government knows that they need to give these men the recognition they deserve. And every single name that was on that ship should be on buildings, should be on streets, should be on roundabouts, should be... Come on, man. Why are we doing our people like this? Anyway, getting a little warm under the collar. Now, it's 17:45 already. What happened? What's going on here? Anyway, the number to call, ladies and gentlemen, listen to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. This is our first show. As you know, it's a weekly show. This is the first Tuesday for 2025. So it's our first show for 2025. And as you know, on this show, we talk maritime. The number to call is 326-8255. If you want to reach us, 326-8255. You may have something you want to contribute. We're going to be moving from topic to topic. So if you all ain't call, I keep talking. You only want to hear me, turn another channel, because I giving it to you real tonight. Well, I give it to you real all the time, eh? So you're getting it again, you're getting it real. So, we want to talk a little bit about Bahamas Maritime Authority. Boy, I know they don't like me, right? I don't even care, because I like them. I just want them to get it right. They have yet, the Bahamas Maritime Authority, which is the entity responsible for the fulfillment of the Merchant Shipping Act in this country, which covers safety on board ships or vessels that operate in the Bahamas, whether they operate locally or whether they operate internationally. Now, the international part is taken care of. You know, the BMA are so good in dealing with international shipping, because they have a port state regime, which is very lacking. As far as I'm concerned, they should have at least 10 port state inspectors. They only got 1.5 or 2 or 2.5. I don't know. Right? I know when I was port state inspector, it was only me one. And the gentleman I took over from the British man, Colum Leggett, Captain Colum Leggett, it was only him one. And who took over for me, what's his name of the Freeport, Mr. Delaney, it was only him one. And I ain't sure how I'd go from there. I know after a while it was Kenneth Carey, and it was only him one, but now I think they got about 2 or 3. But anyway, they need to have about 10. And they need to utilize defense force officers to be part of that regime, because they can be readily trained to inspect ships. They inspect ships all the time. Maybe not for safety at that level, because they have nothing to do with the IMO conventions, but this is something that they can, it's something that I had to learn. It's something that Theo Devaney had to learn. It's something that Herbie Bain had to learn. And guess what? We learned it, and now we be able to go and inspect any ship anywhere in the world. That's how we get on. So the Defense Force, as we came from the Defense Force, well prepared to learn, they have a litany of officers, ripe and ready. The thread just need to be needled. Or should I say, I don't know what you say when you thread the needle, or needle the thread. Thread the needle, right. The thread have to be needled between the Defense Force and the BMA. And it almost happened couple years back that I know of. Excuse me. And the Commodore at the time knocked it down. But the director of the BMA, he wanted it to happen. He wanted 2 Defense Force officers in the London office on a rotational basis, but the BMA is prepared to pay for, so that they can assist the BMA with their technical inspections and licensing stuff. And at the same time, the Defense Force officers would have become friendly and get to understand what the IMO conventions like the SOLAS and the MAPOL and the STCW and the Load Line Convention, all these conventions and codes, they would know what these things are once they do that 2-year stint at BMA. They will be able to move straight in and be port state inspectors. Excuse me. They would be able to move straight out of that and do small boat inspections and surveys. And eventually they would be able to go and do inspections, BMA annual inspections on any size ship anywhere in the world, like myself and Herbert Bain and Theo Devaney did. It's so easy to do. Just need to get it in place. But you know, sometimes we have people in position or in authority. They hate to see people below them getting exposure they don't have. And we need to get rid of that attitude. This country has so much potential, but a lot of it is being lidded. People in authority are putting a lid over these opportunities and not allowing those with the ability to go there and get these exposures. And that is evident, very evident in the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, and that is very evident in the Bahamas Maritime Authority. So we need to get that back. Well, we didn't quite have it, but we need to get it. That's what I say about the Bahamas Maritime Authority. The Port Department. Well, of course, the Port Department deals with domestic stuff like docks on the Family Islands, like registering vessels that want to do pleasure, registering vessels that want to do trade in the Bahamas, between islands. You know? And I think they do a good job at that. But the BMA need to be tied in with that, with their local safety certificate to ensure that these vessels are surveyed annually and safe to hit the seas. And until that happens, we joking. We are not serious. The BMA is not serious. The Port Department really don't know no better. But again, they need to push for this. The Ministry of Transport need to make the BMA do what they're supposed to do based on the Merchant Shipping Act under section, I think it's 86. Issue local safety certificate to all non-SOLAS vessels operating in the Bahamas. You see, because they issue them, they have to ensure that these vessels are surveyed. That and just the other day, they say when a ferry boat in Nassau Harbor, the roof collapsed. With a bunch of people on it, and a lot of people end up in the water. And that brings me to mind, is that a call? Call you on Maritime Matters, hello.
Good evening, my brother.
Good evening, my friend. How are you?
Wonderful, and yourself?
Top shape and getting better all the time. Happy New Year to you, man.
Thank you, and the same to you.
Appreciate it.
Yes, just calling in to give moral support to you.
Oh, I appreciate that 1,000 times, man. I on a roll tonight, a little hot, a little warm under the collar, and be hot in a little while. But any topic you hear me talk about that you wish to give a little bit of input on, you could feel free to call at any time. Thank you so much for calling and giving me that little break.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Continue to be encouraged.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. You take care of yourself.
Watch this. But I support the views that you've just stated with respect to the BMA.
Yeah.
With your advocacy for improvement in our systems that speaks to maritime affairs in the country. I support that 100%, and encourage you to continue to be that voice. In the wilderness now, but you will come to the fore as more persons take an opportunity to listen and comprehend your advocacy and give moral support to it, because these are things of significant national interest.
Yes, sir.
And so, as a citizen and a former colleague, if you will, in law enforcement,
there you go.
Thanks for support and good. All right?
I appreciate that call 1,000 times, my friend. You continue to take care, and let's keep in touch. But feel free to call anytime, please. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Roger. Okay, we got a second caller. Caller, you on Maritime Matters. Hello.
Happy New Year, Auntie May.
Hey, Happy New Year to you, my dear. How are you?
All right, I hope Auntie May has some brandy to keep her warm.
Boy.
We're talking about state of affairs of the Bahamas. The Bahamas has a bigger problem than Maritime. We have an immigration problem.
Oh, yeah, I started out with the immigration problem. Where you was? You ain't listening when I started it.
I had my radio low.
Mm.
Yeah, well, immigration will solve everything.
That's right. And I about to talk with some details today when we get finished getting rid of these shanty towns and after I come back from the break I get little deep into that.
Okay, Auntie May, bye.
Thank you very much for calling. Yes, I'll tell Auntie May get her brandy in order. Auntie May, hear that? Get that brandy for this cold weather. Because boy, Auntie May tell me say she's so cold that night. She had on socks, she had on but 3 sets of clothes. And she under the blanket. I said, Auntie May, you need a blanket and a comforter. But now, as my good friend just said in that call, you need a little brandy too. So for y'all out there who know, now you know this weekend coming, it could be cold. Y'all be say, I don't drink, but you can need that little brandy. If you don't drink brandy, get something but you can handle. But boy, look here, this cold ain't gonna be playing. Okay, back to the Port Department. We were saying that the Port Department basically are the ones that register all these vessels, and the BMA need to make sure that these vessels are safe to operate. And I started to talk about that. I don't think I got the name, but there was a ferry boat that was coming across, and the top of the ferry boat collapsed. So it dropped on the people in the bottom, and then the people on the top all ended up in the water. And that ain't mean they could swim. And that ain't mean they had time to get life jackets. But there were a lot of boats in the area that came to their rescue and all the rest of that. And I mean, but you all don't know. You all don't know the difference between one person dying in that incident and nobody dying in that incident. Let one person have died. I mean, we don't want nobody to die. But I could tell you, the repercussion we would have had, because there's no way they can tell me that that vessel was surveyed by a trained surveyor or qualified surveyor. Because they would have restrict, and let me tell you what a lot of these ferry boats did. Even while I was deputy port director, they have these boats that are designed to carry so many people. So they put all them seats to carry people. And then they rig on the side some wood and put another deck on that wood on their own. Boat wasn't designed for the next deck. But they want to carry more people, and they feel like once they put it, they can be strong enough. But let me tell you something. You don't just do that. That vessel have to be properly structured to tie together, just like a house. If you're building a split level, you don't build that like how you build your single level home. Because you can need the bar joists if you go in with concrete on the floor, and you could need, even when you dig your footing needs to be the steel need to be thicker than the footing for a 1-story unit. So you got your steel and the columns got to be bigger, because now you got a whole structure on top of a structure that is always bearing down, gravity always pushing it down, trying to get it. So you got to build that strong, and then you build a single home. And the same thing with boats. But you got, after you done buy the boat is single, and you try to do makeshifting to make it up. That's why in situations they might tip over because the stability ain't right, or the structure could collapse like this one. But if we had surveyors surveying these vessels and issuing local safety certificates based on those surveys, then the surveyor would make them take their topping off or strengthen it properly so it could accommodate the amount of people they will carry on top. And these are simple things that we take for granted in this country, and the authorities ain't checking. The authorities lost. You can't expect the Port Department to know about these things, because they don't. And I can tell you they don't. When I worked at the Port Department, I didn't know about them. And I was Deputy Port Control. Only one person is higher than me. That was Harvey Sweeten, and I know he didn't know. I found this out after working with the BMA, after doing surveys on small vessels after getting certified to become an international ship captain. That's when you learn these things about stability and structure of vessels, and this is how you learn these things. So I don't expect the people in the port department to understand, but I can guarantee you, every single person that work in the tech, all of those assistant directors and deputy directors that work in the technical area in the BMA, they are fully aware of all of this. And if they were to do their job and cause all non-Solus vessels operating in the Bahamas, see, Solus vessels have to already meet these things because they class. All non-Solus vessels operating in the Bahamas to be surveyed to the extent where the hull, machinery, structure, safety equipment, safety radio, all these things are taken into consideration, then we ain't gonna have these kind of problems. So why we gotta, because we's a, I wouldn't call it third world, what they call it now, developing country, because we's a developing country, why we gotta act like a developing country? Are we ever gonna reach first world? Come on, man, we got enough. Our BMA is rich in knowledge. But most of them are foreign because they didn't take time out to ensure that the Bahamians are progressively coming through that system. It's just problem after problem. Where will it end? Anyway, the BMA, y'all got to come in and say, I ain't listening up of y'all, so you just got to hate me more. I don't care. Port department, now, you know, the port department is my special. I got a special heart for the port department. Because when I worked there, most of the things that happened used to happen because of me. I used to, the port controller, Mr. Sweeten, Harvey Sweeten at the time, he used to give me carte blanche to just do things because he knew I want things improved. So most of the people who was working there knew that Bain was the one who behind us. Bain was the one who behind us. I got full support from the port controller. So I can't tell you he knew what was going on. But he was dealing with the upper things, the ministry and big things. I was dealing with the underground stuff. So the port department, you all know, Porter's Key is a problem. Not just for Glen Bain now. Porter's Key is a problem for the entire country. You know how, people always tell me, man, you all got to do something with this Porter's Key. And they so right. When you go on Porter's Key, you sometimes get a hold your nose to breathe properly. We got so many problems with the regulation of Porter's Key. First of all, you got congestion problem with all them containers all over the place. And all those little offices for the various and the different vessels. Why they have to be on Porter's Key? Why we can't freight out to Porter's Key dock? When we could make every single vessel have an office over the hill away from Porter's Key where people carry the goods and do their transaction and pick up their goods when it reach Nassau because it's going to be transported there. Ain't no transaction between vessel and customer should be happening on Porter's Key dock. And we need to make that happen because it's disgusting how, people who are going out to Porter's Key dock to catch a vessel, I ain't talking about freight now. Freight definitely don't happen out there. Don't supposed to happen out there. But people who got to go on the ship when it's time for the vessel to leave, they can have their ticket in advance. And there'll be some of the few traffic that need to go on Porter's Key dock. And then you don't let them store no containers on the dock. Store that to your property over the hill. You don't let no vessel sit on Porter's Key dock that is not operating. Get your backside somewhere else. This dock is for vessels that come to operate and are in operation while they're here. That may sound simple, right? But it's not simple. It takes a lot of effort to make that happen. But it can be done. And it can only be done if those at the top make it happen. But I can keep looking at it. Like I say, the port department have a special place in my heart. But I ain't gonna sit and allow them to leave things as is. And the Port Department also need to make a grave effort. When I say grave effort, I don't know if they're making any at all. But they need to collect the revenue from these foreign yacht charter. You know how much of these foreign yacht charter boats is being in the land and sea park on a daily basis. Just they making, I mean, on average they make anywhere between $50,000 and $100,000 a week. And right now the government's supposed to be getting some 10 plus, how much percent? They applied VAT, plus they had 4%, for 14%. So 14% of couple million ain't too shabby, eh? But we gotta chase it. We gotta go there and arrest vessels that are violating our law. And you ain't gotta arrest much of them. Once you start doing that, the people can make sure the money comes where it's supposed to come. But you can't sit back to them and, oh, they don't check. They don't check, but they can check for, and it's them who owe you money. No, we need to get proactive in collecting our revenue from foreign yacht charters, because we know they're here in abundance in the land and sea park throughout the year. Should I go to the Royal Bahamas Defense Force? I think I should take a break for a second. We can talk about the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, the Nassau Cruise Port, Grand Bahama Shipyard, and the Lighthouse Point and Celebration Key. We need another show. Anyway, let me go on. Again, ladies and gentlemen, listen to Captain Glenn Bain. You are listening to Maritime Matters. I'm your host. We are halfway, probably about, what it is now? Yeah, an hour. We just an hour in, and we got a half hour left. So as you can tell, we don't have much time left. So if you want it on the show, the number to call is 326-8255. That's 326-8255. And we'll be happy to feel your contribution. We love it when you call, because it gives me time to take a break. I had one fella call one time, he called me and said, man, your show, you just be talking, yapping. I said, so what you want me to do? I want you call so you could yap. That's what I want you to do. You call and you ain't gonna hear me. But if you don't call and I don't yap, then what you can hear? Nothing but silence. How much sense that make? That ain't what talk shows about. Silence. Somebody gotta talk. So again, 326-8255. That is the number to call to reach me here on Maritime Matters. We about to go to the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. And we had a couple programs on the Royal Bahamas Defense Force last year. We had one that talked about the beginning of the force, when you had entry 1 and entry 2 came in. You had the first set of officers, which is Ken Turnquest and Peter Drudge. They went first. 3 months later, Donald Ware went. Then you had Roger Roll, Godfrey Roll, Anthony Allens. They were followed by Jackson Ritchie and Raymond Farquharson and Cool Breeze. Oh my goodness, I forget Cool Breeze's name. But these men, they were the ones that they came forth to shape this force. And they did an extremely good job shaping not only the force, but officers like myself. Letting us know that these things, this is the way you do things. This is the way you carry yourself as an officer. And, well, eventually, you know, they were all out of the system. New blood coming in. But the force itself changed in so many ways. And I wouldn't even go into all that, how the quality of officers that came into the force was so different then, because these fellas know when we come in, we go straight to Dartmouth. We're gonna be officers right off the bat. And you know, when I look at the core of officers, let's say the first 20 officers that went off to Dartmouth, because only Dartmouth we used to do back then. The first 20, I can tell you that at least 80% of those, at least 80%, were graduates from private schools. And I talk about graduates with good grades in the BGCSEs or the GCs O levels as they were back then. And that stands for something. And the system of recruiting officers changed over the years. And now I don't even think, because when I joined, William Swinley, who was the Commodore at the time, he came to Arm Bailey and he said to us on assembly, he's looking for a few men to send to Dartmouth. I don't even think the Commodore goes around to recruit, or even if it ain't a Commodore, some senior officer goes around to these schools to try and get people directly out of the high school into the force. And I talking about you targeting, what we need to target now is people to go off to be engineering officers. So we need people with physics and chemistry and maths and stuff like that to go be officers. I talking about officers that could serve on any warship anywhere in the world, and eventually any ship anywhere in the world. They can be chief engineer internationally. You know what kind of status that is? But you need to have the right people. You need to tell people from school level who have the capacity to go and do those things. My voice trying to run away with me now. Anyway, I tired getting on the Defense Force for their engineering situation, but we need to make sure that engineering situation is met this year, 2025. We need to assure that engineers are appropriately qualified, and we have engineering officers in those engine rooms, not engineering ratings as chief engineer and second engineer. Engineering officers, Dartmouthian officers, who went off to Manhattan or whatever engineering school after that, and went out to sea on big ships as engineer officer in the training. So that's where we need to go with the Defense Force. Nassau Cruise Port. What about Nassau Cruise Port we need to talk about? A couple of things. First of all, we mentioned earlier that the Nassau Cruise Port is going to be supplying, and I don't know if it's the Nassau Cruise Port or BPL or the government or whoever, supplying some, I think, 60 or 70 megawatts of power for cruise ships to plug in. And as I know it, they have plans to provide LNG to these ships. But as they know, or I assume they know, and I like to think that the officials at Nassau Cruise Port knows that almost every single cruise ship is converting their engines now to use LNG. So if they have LNG on board, why they get plugged in to use our LNG? And did that make any sense to anybody? I believe I know why they're pushing LNG, but I ain't nothing to do with what's going on, right? You got a special interest trying to make money. But if we go to solar, if we provide that 60 or 70 megawatts of solarized power, those cruise ships will quickly plug in. Why? Because they know that when they could report that they reduced their carbon emission by plugging in at Nassau Cruise Port, that's going to be a credit to their carbon emissions overall that they have to account for to the IMO to keep their license. Or to reduce costs, because what they're going to do very soon is they're going to make you pay so much dollars per ton of carbon emission if you didn't convert they're going to make you pay. So you can get a credit and knock off some of that you'll have to pay when you import because you ain't burning none at all. So two things, Nassau Cruise Port. Get yourself, check yourself, change your mind. You still have time to change it because you ain't installed it yet, eh? The cruise ships ain't going to want it if you go with liquefied natural gas, because that's what they have on board. And if they plug it into you, then they're reducing emissions because you are now emitting what they was emitting on the ship. They can't use that as a credit. But if you give them solar and you're not emitting no carbon, then they would be able to use that couple hours there was in Nassau Port to offset the carbon emission they do when they're out to sea. and say they're getting a credit. So the balance, so why don't put something there with their need? Yeah, you may think it's a good idea because you're looking at the bigger picture. These cruise ships are thinking the same way. They want to reduce their carbon footprint. They can't do that by plugging into to liquefied natural gas. I can't put that no clearer than that. I know you're no specialist in this area, but I got common sense and I got mother's wit. Go ahead and bless me good with that. Now, we always talking about the Nassau Harbor waterfront. Why people ain't coming off the cruise ship? Because it looks so dirty and filthy, and they go down Bay Street and ain't nothing happening, and they ain't interested in that. And I still say today, and I continue to say until something happens, right? We need a harbor walk along the water from Prince George Wharf all the way to Porter's Key. We could build a concrete wharf to go all the way in the back of those buildings on the north side of Bay Street. All the way, and they could walk from the harbor to Porter's Key. And guess what? While along that route, all you can have is high-end restaurants. You can have live band playing here, music playing there. So if you ever go on the Thames River, or you ever go in Halifax and do the harbor walk, or you go in Baltimore and do the harbor, let me tell you something. These places are so nice to walk along the water that Nassau will fit right into that. And you'll have almost everybody want to come off the cruise ship because now they can come and do a nice walk where they're not really harassed, where they could buy almost anything from jewelry. All them downtown stores could be along the waterfront. Right? But you ain't got no cars passing up and down where you get across the road and this and that. And when they get to Porter's Key, well, first of all, we got to clean up Porter's Key, eh? Excuse me. When they get to Porter's Key, they could have something like that big Ferris wheel that we call, in Singapore they call it the Singapore Flyer. In London they call it the London Eye, where people can go up and they can see all over Nassau, all over the harbor, all the back of Paradise Island. And let me tell you something. People just love that. Because that's something to do. You know, just to come off the cruise ship, walk to Porter's Key, get on that flyer, and walk back. People like that. They want to driving or riding, and they want the exercise. They're on the ship all the time, you know. They don't mind coming ashore and getting some exercise. And on the opposite side of that, we could have the same waterfront or harbor walk going all the way to Long Wharf Beach. And then when you reach Long Wharf Beach, you come around the Bay Street side, make sure they can continue to walk, and all the way to Fish Fry. And that's almost in place now. All the way to Fish Fry. And so you'll have that harbor walk on both sides of the cruise port. Both of them would be lovely. And you could put some inject in there. You could inject in there a zip line where you could, when you reach off the ship and you reach ashore, you could climb up and you could get on a zip, strap yourself down, and you could zip halfway to Porter's Key, and then you take another zip the rest of the way to Porter's Key. And you could zip back and do the same thing in the Fish Fry. You could zip along, and you would be the Fish Fry in no time. Mind you, it cost a couple $2, but guess what? People love that experience. And then you got people on the ground who watching them, and who say, oh, that looks lovely. That's better than the parasail thing they do, and less risky. So let's build up a Nassau harbor front so that people would want to come off the ship and get engaged in these spectacular things to do. Now we move on. As time moving on, we moving on, eh? Boy, we ain't get to do much of the details tonight. Y'all probably don't want to hear the details. I don't know. But anyway, we move on to the Grand Bahamas Shipyard Limited. What is it about the shipyard? A lot of us never seen it. Most of us in Freeport would have seen it because it is based in Freeport. This shipyard actually takes cruise ships out of the water so that they could have all their underwater repairs done, and they need to do it at least once every 2 years. So this ain't no jokey operation. They have to do it in order to keep in service. Otherwise, they violate the Solis Convention and they would be detained and can't move. So this big business. But we have our Nassau, our Grand Bahama shipyard. It's going to be the largest shipyard in this hemisphere. Hemisphere being North and South America, right? Because it's going to be able to take any size cruise ship and probably any size ship out of the water. The floating docks are on the way. One of them should be, I think, the end of this year, and the next one, the middle of next year. And they're going to make that so huge. But guess what? It's costing them some $665 million to improve the floating dock staging area and bring in these docks, right? But guess what else? We have hundreds of Bahamians that work on these ships. We have hundreds of Bahamians that work in the office of this company. And we have hundreds of Bahamians who are contractors that get jobs on these ships. And like them fellas, one of the political parties to say, this ain't going. It's coming. This is going to get bigger and bigger all the time. So our government, who's part owner now of this our government owner must be 20%, or 10%, something like that. But our government needs to get in bed with these owners. Because we already have the big BMA that really handles over 1,700 ships. Our government, well, 1,700 back then, probably 1,500 today, I don't know. But our government needs to make an arrangement for our local Bahamians to get the kind of exposure and training necessary so that we don't have to bring in a whole heap of foreigners to be doing fitting work, welding and pipe fitting and things like that. We should have enough Bahamians. This place was here from, what year this came in? 2001? From 2001, what year this is? 2001, 2021. It's already going on 14 years, 15 years. So if you get 14 years, and you know they can be here for another 20, 30, or 40, they can be here forever. When are you going to have enough Bahamians trained up to take care of any kind of work that is necessary in there? Because we've had that exposure. These are some of the things that we need to know our government is projecting to deal with. And they could do it through BMA. They could easily do it through BMA. Give BMA that mandate. They could do it through LJM, the Maritime School. They could make sure that people are appropriately trained at the Maritime School for those purposes, even if you got to bring in foreign lecturers for that. But there's no reason why we shouldn't have Bahamians fully ready to take on those tasks where we would not be necessary to bring in foreigners, eh? Last big topic we have that we discussed last year was these two new ports in our family islands. Excuse me, we got two cruise ships. See that I even ain't taking no break tonight. And if you just join us and you want to call us, 326-8255 is the number to reach me, right? We'll be happy to take your call. But we got Lighthouse Point in Saudi Lutra that is almost ripe. I think this year, the middle of this year, that should be opening. And Disney is going to be utilizing that. And that's going to hire a good handful of Bahamians. And even more so, it's going to create opportunities for people living in Eleuthera to do tours and cleaning contracts and restaurant services and that type of thing ashore. Because I think our government have it in a way that Disney knows that they can't have no foreigners coming and waking on land when it comes to them having that port in place. Because Disney already have a port. That's in Castaway Key, which used to be Morris Island off Sandy Point, Abaco. And they already have a lot of Bahamians coming in and out of there doing, so they know the requirements. But the reality is, when you open that port, it's going to create a lot of activities. Because you got to remember, Disney ship, that could roll, I think, 2 ships at a time. Disney ships carrying 4,000 or 5,000 passengers each. And if that's going to bring 8,000 to 12,000 passengers to that island in Lutra at one time, any given day they can have at least 5,000 when you add up the passengers and the crew. You know the kind of revenue, the kind of activities just putting that port is going to generate. And that's why I'm saying we, the Bahamas government, need to ensure that each single island in this country has a place where any cruise ship could come and dock and share with the local community and get the tranquility of that island and have tours done. And there's no reason why we should be just outweighed by these cruise ships who are putting their own ports in place. We ain't got a problem with them doing that, you know. But when they put their port in place, ain't no other ship could go to that port. Only them. So let the government put somewhere, any ship would want to, you realize that ships are being built every year. You got 3-4 being released. They don't have port. They got places in the world now that are turning away cruise ships. They say, too much, we don't want more y'all. Y'all get too big and y'all causing problems. We in the Bahamas, we sit on the front door of the 3 largest home cruise ports in the world. Miami, Port Everglades, Port Canaveral. There's no other port facility anywhere in the world that takes on passengers more than those 3. And they're right on the eastern coast of the U.S. And when you leave them, you can't pass the Bahamas and go nowhere else. You gotta come down, so pass through us. So why should we have it where we don't have 4 or 5 stops they could make that the government put in place? Right now, the government only got 1, Nassau. And this Lighthouse Point is showing the government what this can do for people in Lutra. That Celebration Key in Freeport is showing the government, by Carnival putting that in place, how much jobs that could generate for Grand Bahama. So why the government don't put one in place? Yeah, the port got their own, but the port is charged for any money. The government don't put one in place on every single island. And when we say every single island, Morgan's Bluff is ripe and ready. Morgan's Bluff already dredged. So they only got to go down another 10 feet. Because they're down, I think they're up to about 28 feet now. 10 feet more, 38 feet, 40 feet. Any cruise ship could go in there. Make the turning basin a little bigger, a little wider. In some cases, you get 2 cruise ships in there at one time. What a difference that will make for Morgan's Bluff or for the entire North Andros. And then further down, you got Drakeshill, eh? Drakeshill needs some dredging done. And a little expansion just to accommodate the size of that cruise ship. But once you do that, you only need 1 cruise ship in there every day. You only need more than 1. Could you imagine the amount of activities? You know how much blue holes in South Andros? You know how much crab catching going on in South Andros? Drakeshill will give those tourists something they've never before seen in their life. They ain't seen nowhere else. Same thing with Morgan's Bluff. So Andros will be covered. And it ain't cost the government that much, man. Give these ships some places to go. They building the ships, they bringing the people. Let us do something, man. Can't let Nassau, everything is Nassau and Freeport. Those islands have more, better, prettier beaches. They got less crime. They got better tours. Nature tours. Then we could drop on our Sandy Point, right? Because Abaco ain't got none. I mean, what Disney doing, that only for Disney. And that's really just a little island off Abaco. We need that Southwest Point just below Sandy Point. Put one jetty that hold up to two cruise ships at a time. And if only one go there every day, that will do wonders. And as time closing in on me, let me keep going. Cape Elutra. Just put a jetty button out into the ocean. They only could use it when the weather good. But 80% of times of the year the weather good. So that 20% of the time, if they can't use it, they can't use it, eh? But let's put it down. Drake's Hill. We're on top of Drake's Hill. We're on top of Morris Bluff. We're on top of Sandy Point. Let's go down to Stocking Island. Stocking Island, picturesque Elizabeth Harbor. You can imagine they just, and on the ocean side of Stocking Island, you know, just put a jetty. Again, 20% of the times in the year they may not be able to use it, but that 80% when they could use it. Imagine how those people's faces are light up when they come off that ship, walk on Stocking Island, and they can catch a little ferry across to Georgetown. Or they can just stay on Stocking Island and enjoy the pleasures, the lessons of that island. Stocking Island big enough for them to have plenty fun. Right? So, again, Roker's Point. Roker's Point put them in the heart of the northern side of Exuma. They can have tours to do all kind of things. They could even have a mosquito biting tour. Okay, so I can't a little far, right? We ain't want that. But they can have tours for all kind of things, right? If they stick a jetty and do some dredging to get them in and out of Roker's Point. Because Roker's Point ain't that far from the ocean, eh? Devil's Point, Cat Island. Wow. Just ripe and ready and waiting. You get the protection from the eastern breezes and winds. You get an area where the road already runs. You just need the cruise ship to come and land the people. You know how much tours Cat Island could offer? Cat Island is, man, that's down home. All they can listen to, they only got to listen to Phil Stubbs' music while they're there, and that'll be enough. But anyway, I digress. Clarencetown, Long Island. Landrail Point, Crooked Island. Landrail Point, that touching the ocean. Come on, man, that's the easy one. One cruise ship a day, or two cruise ships on other days. And those islands will become cities. Port Nelson, up in Rumkey. You know Rumkey, that's small. Let's get a cruise ship in Port Nelson. Let's see how much things they could do on that island for cruise ships. Betsy Bay, Mayaguana. Mayaguana is in the line. Many cruise ships got to pass there when they go into the Eastern Caribbean. When they go in from those three big home ports, they're going to go to Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, whatever. They always passing Grand Turk and Mayaguana. Put a port at Mayaguana so they can have an extra stop where they wouldn't have to have 2 days at sea without no port. Same thing in Machutang, Inagua. How much cruise ships pass Inagua, wishing they could have just do one more stop before they go where they're going? But no port, nowhere in that area. Excuse me. So people, that's what you want to do. 2025, we're going to be pushing to make sure some grounds are broken to get us some of these things that we discussed. And I'll just go over them while we got 2 more minutes. We just talk about the provision of the Family Island cruise ship facilitations. Put a cruise in every major family island. A cruise dock that could hold 2 ships. Immigration. We talk about the legal employment and the enforcement of illegal hiring. Making sure that We lock up some of the people who hiring some of these people illegally. Lock up those companies. Put them in court, and the rest will get the message. And then we ain't got to worry about catching people when they get on the street. No, let's make sure they can't awaken. You will see how quick they can't get out of this town. Once they can't awaken the Bahamas, they go on somewhere else. We know where they going, but I ain't getting in that. But they'll can't get out there. Right? We just need to enforce our laws, what are already in the Immigration Act. Shanty towns, we started to alleviate them. Let's get that done thoroughly. We ain't need no shanty towns. We got our laws in place to say your house should be built based on this code. If it ain't being built based on that code, just like you'll do with the Bahamians, break it down. We have our troops going to Haiti. Some people don't think they should. I think they should. That's why they're troops. Well, we got to fix the boat to take them to do that part, but some of them actually going on land to assess what's going on. We're trying to, bring stability. We need stability to our brothers in Haiti, man. If we need stability in the Bahamas, we'll hope they come and help us too. Global warming. We marked the hottest month in recorded history just last year, November, 2 months ago. Because of what's going on with this fossil fuel blocking up the environment and causing extra heat to stay on the earth. So we also had the greatest sea level rise threat last year. By far, we had the threat of the ocean coming closer in on our land. And that's what we're afraid of. That's what global warming can do if we don't get our renewable energy sorted out. And our renewable energy is going to call for what? Oh, my time is almost there. It's going to call for solar. Because we're in the Bahamas. We're in the Sun Belt. Excuse me. So we want solar. We ain't want no LNG and that type of thing. No. Straight to solar. That's what we need. We need to tie into the grid so that everybody can be part of this feeding energy from solar. HMBS Flamingo incident. We talk about how those guys died in vain because ain't nobody do nothing for them yet. They ain't get no reparations. They ain't get a name on no street, no roundabout, no building. Come on, man. We got to fix that this year. Bahamas Maritime Authority. Slackers. They will not implement that local safety certificate so that ships could be safe and these boats don't be collapsing and turning over. And you remember the boat that gone, that sank off Morgan's Bluff last year and 4 men lost their lives. And they were not Bahamians, I understand, but lives were lost. All because perhaps that vessel didn't have a local safety certificate. But we know they had no local safety certificate. They were not being surveyed and checked. And that's why they was able to sink, eh? We need to cut it out. Port Department, let's get Porter's Key in order. Make sure them containers come off. Make sure these people have their office over the hill someplace, land what they play for, and let the people do their transaction over there so we have less congestion and we can start cleaning up Porter's Key, eh? Nassau Cruise Port. Solar, not LNG for them cruise ship to plug in. Let's beautify the harbor walk. Let's make that happen. Zip line, Ferris wheel, and all the way to Porter's Key, etc., etc. Grand Bahama Shipyard. Let's get some Bahamians properly qualified to take up all those jobs. And last but not least, Lighthouse Point and Celebration Key. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are fresh out of time. Again, you were listening to Maritime Matters with your hosts, me, Captain Glenn Bain, our sponsors, Bahamas Maritime Connection, Island Care Pharmacy in Freeport, and 101 Pharmacy in Nassau. My producer for the night was Mr. Craig Gibson himself in the flesh. And I thank Annie Mae, continuing to be our #1 fan. And I thank you, our dear listener. Always clocking in, tuning in, whenever you can, listening in to Maritime Matters.
So I'm just gonna sit on that dark little bed, watching the tide